Well, real quick before we get started on this video, I want to go over some of the basics I'm going to be covering in this video. I think that there's a few key things that you should look out for when you're controlling recoil on console. The first of which is knowing how to control your vertical recoil. That is the most important part, the vertical recoil. Um, I'm going to be talking more in depth about all these points later, but make sure you can control your vertical recoil. Step two is knowing what to look at when you are controlling your recoil. I'm going to be talking more about that, but most people, in my opinion, don't look at the right thing when they're trying to control their recoil. They're too focused on the wrong thing, and that kind of it doesn't build muscle memory in the way I think it should. I think it's way more impactful if you do it my way. And then the third thing that I think is super key is knowing what the attachments do and knowing what attachments fit you. Some attachments work better for some people than others. I know my friends run flash hider on certain guns, compensator, extended barrel. Just because you see other people running it doesn't mean it's for you. I'm going to show you in this video on how to analyze what's right for you. Make sure you're doing things in this game for a reason. Don't just do things because you see other people do them. It can be a breakdown on how to control recoil on a controller and how to maybe even get good enough to look Cronus Zen. So yeah, let's get started. In first-person shooters, there's typically two types of recoil. There's the vertical recoil, which goes up, and horizontal recoil, which goes either right or left, and sometimes back and forth, depending on the gun you use. The gun I currently have right now, the L8, it goes into the left, and the way you can tell this is just by, aiming at the center, holding down the shoot button, and not controlling the recoil. As you can see, the pattern goes up and to the left. So this means to counter this, we have to pull down and to the right. So it would look something like this, down and to the right. Now, that wasn't very good. That was a little bit better. That was a little bit better. But as you can see there, the more I used the gun, the better and better it got, sort of. And that's the same thing it's gonna help you be better, is just repetition. The most important thing about controlling recoil is having repetition with the weapons that you use. If you're struggling with recoil, I really suggest you like honing in on one or two weapons recoil patterns and getting really good with them. Siege does have random recoil patterns, which means it's not going to be the same every time. So see if I scope in on the same spot again. And I shoot, it's pretty similar, but you can see the dots aren't falling in on the same spot. Let me do it again. And once again, the dots aren't falling in on the same spot. Let me do it again. So as you can see, as it gets higher and higher, there's more of a spread, and that's horizontally. It's not so much vertically. So I'm gonna show kind of the basics on what I do to control recoil. So if I'm using a brand new gun for the first time, I'm gonna control the vertical recoil, which looks something like this. You can see how the gun is kicking to the left. And like I said, Sledge's gun naturally moves to the left. So this is me just pulling, straight down. And the gun kicking to its left on its own. Alright, so when you're controlling recoil, like I said, you want to focus on the vertical. So this gun's pattern goes up and to the right. Which means you're going to have to pull down to the left. But like I said, let's focus on just the vertical recoil for now. So when you pull down, it should look something like that. There's gonna be a rightwards progression, because like I said, it goes to the right, but we're just focused on the vertical for now. The up and down. So when we move this 20 meters, it might kick out to the right, but we want the vertical to be pretty steady. Alright. Now, to control the vertical recoil, basically all you want to do is you want to see... Don't look at where the bullets are landing. I think when you're practicing recoil, you need to look at your scope's movement. So if your scope, like that reticle, or even the outer bay, is moving a lot, that's bad. If you focus too much on where the bullets are landing, it doesn't actually help you get anywhere, in my opinion. I think people focus too much on trying to get all the bullets in the same spot. They don't actually like feel the muscle memory, because if you're super close, all the bullets are going to be in the same spot. But if you're super far, the bullets are going to be way like, weird. But when I shot the gun both times, I felt like I had relatively similar recoil pattern control. That's because when you're focused on where the bullets are going to end up or how they end up, you don't actually like, gain anything. You don't learn, like, fix your muscle memory. You just kind of, you look at the result, basically. You don't want to look at the result. You want to feel it. Like, you want to make muscle memory a second nature kind of thing. So you don't want to look at where they end up. You want to look at what your screen shows you. And your screen is showing you that your scope's not moving you, then that's a good thing. Like, if your scope's not moving, that's a good thing. Don't worry about where the bullets end up. Worry about how your scope is moving. Like right there, my scope barely moved, and as you can see, I lasered him on 21 out of 28 headshots in the chest. That one, it was going up and down a little bit, but still, we lasered him on 26 out of 28. But yeah, basically, the way I control recoil is not in game, obviously. In game, it's muscle memory. But if I'm in the shooting range or I'm trying to learn a recoil pattern for a new gun, I'm just constantly shooting around, not looking at the actual bullet patterns, but I'm looking at my scope to make sure this doesn't bounce around or jiggle or, you know, move around too much. Now, obviously, I don't have perfect recoil control. I'm a controller player. I'm not a mouse and keyboard. I don't use a Zen. So, once you're comfortable on one or two guns on both attack and defense, you're going to want to step up, you know, use some harder guns, the SMG-12, for example. Now, this gun has one of the hardest recoil patterns in the game. So if we come back here just to see the pattern, you can see that it sort of comes up and to the left, and then it goes back to the right. Which means at the start, we're going to have to pull down and to the right. And then once it gets to this top bit, we're going to have to pull to the, we're going to have to pull to the left to counteract the movement. Alright, so we're going to come to this range and we're going to practice our vertical recoil control. We're going to make sure we can pull down all the way, basically, and that our gun doesn't go up and down too much. We're not going to worry about the left and right yet, but we're going to focus on the vertical. There we go. The vertical was pretty good. I was definitely missing shots, but that was left and right. I wasn't going up and down too much. So now that we have like the feel for the up and down, we can start to focus on the left and right. So basically the way you do it is, if you feel like your gun is too far to the left, which is very easy to tell, you just move to the right. And in regards it's too far to the right, you just move it to the left. I don't really do this by memorizing patterns. I just do it by visually what's on my screen. Now you can see I miss a couple shots, but then I try to readjust, and then I try to readjust. It's very hard to readjust with this gun, but if you practice on difficult weapons, it's going to make your easier weapons even easier. So we're going to move on to a different gun, the F2. The F2's recoil pattern, it's pretty much all vertical. There's very little horizontal in the F2. You can see it kicks up to the right a little bit, but for the most part, it's right on the center line. So when you come to the shooting range, it should be pretty much just pulling straight down. Like, the F2 it's got a lot of recoil, don't get me wrong. It's not like it's nothing, but it's pretty easy to control, because all you have to do is down. Like, you could get it to move into a singular spot if you just pull down and you get the hang of how much you have to pull down. F2 is it's pretty easy to get used to once you get the hang of it. You just have to make sure that you're playing on some settings you're comfortable with. And like I said, you're not focusing on where the bullets end up, like bullet patterns, but you're focusing on your scope's movement. So if I'm just looking at my scope right now, I can see that my scope went up. That means that we have to go like that to keep it steady. We just want to keep our scope steady. Another huge important key of recoil control is knowing what your attachments do. So for flash hider, that is vertical recoil. So that's when your gun goes up and down. This helps your gun move up less. So it'll slow down the speed at which your gun kicks up. If you're struggling with the vertical recoil, this is your go-to attachment. This is what I run on the majority of my guns. Flash hider is like it's never a miss basically. Sometimes you can do better, but it'll never be bad. The flash hider is always good. And then we have the compensator. The compensator reduces the horizontal recoil. So that's the left to right movement. For me personally, I only run compensator on guns that go left to right to left to right. I don't run guns that like have a lot of kick to the left or a lot of kick to the right because that's pretty easy. You can hold your joystick in one direction, like say like such as gun, it shoots up and to the right. So you pull down into the or it shoots up and to the left. So you pull down and to the right to counteract it. You can keep it in the down and to the right position, but with like say the Scorpion Ella's gun, that one goes left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So I run the compensator to keep me from having to adjust my joystick like flicking it back and forth like this so much. I just kind of rely on that compensator so that I can pull my gun down and make smaller adjustments, more gradual adjustments. The muzzle brake, that is first shot recoil. So that's basically if you're tap firing. Muzzle brake's really good on DMRs. Um, it's really good on some automatic guns too. Like if you have a really slow firing gun, the muzzle brake speed kind of resets so that it's like it's controlling your recoil really well. And this is once again like the vertical, so it stops like the kick going up. If you're struggling with your first shot accuracy, run the muzzle brake just to kind of get first shot accuracy back. First shot accuracy is key in this game. If you're missing headshots in gunfights, you're gonna lose. If you can't hit your first few bullets, you're gonna lose. If you're struggling with your recoil control and you just want to get some shots like downrange onto a target, this is the gun for you probably, or the attachment. I don't like relying on muzzle brake because your recoil control, it gets weird because you're gonna have no recoil at the start and then a ton at the end. But if you cannot get your shots down at the start, try the muzzle brake, and then slowly start to change into the other attachments. Because I don't think it's the best attachment, but it definitely works when your recoil control is poor or you can't really feel it. The suppressor and the extended barrel, they both do the same thing recoil wise. There's no effect. It's the same as running no barrel essentially. So I personally run the suppressor and the G36 because one, I like making like sneakier plays when I'm running G36 characters. Like typically it's like Ash or something. So I'm like running upstairs, making like I'm doing sneaky stuff basically. So if I have a suppressor, I can shoot cams in silence. I can kind of rat around the map. I can get shots off. I can go for wall bangs without them really knowing where I'm shooting from. The suppressor, in my opinion, is really good for the G36 because it has virtually no recoil. And with the vertical grip, it's got like none at all if you practice a little bit. Suppressor is perfect on it, in my opinion. But some people I see run the extended barrel. For me, it only makes a 4 damage increase. And some gunfights, it's gonna make the difference for me, but for the most part, you gotta shoot heads once you get to a high enough level. So I prefer the suppressor over the extended barrel. I like the sneakiness of it. Extended barrel, same thing as suppressor, does not change the recoil at all. It's basically running no barrel, but it does give you more damage and it decreases your drop off, which means that you could do more damage at a further range for longer. So, say at 60 meters, Ash's gun only does 30 damage instead of the base of 38. At 60 meters, your gun might still do 35 damage with the extended barrel. I don't know the math, but basically you do more damage at more range.